Coming back to part 3 and the final part of this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. This section of the podcast is going to be asking Dennis about a little bit less about his business. It could be related, but more so just a few things in general that have helped him as a person out in his life, and sort of, maybe they've helped him on this journey or just his journey in general. And one thing that I always love to find out is what are some books that you really, really love? They could be useful to have made this business or not at all. Is there a book that you go back to each year, one you've read multiple times, or one that's impacted you a lot?
The only one I've read super many times would be the Homerus.
The what?
But I just got into Greek mythology when I was a kid and just kept on. And
what's it called?
The Homerus.
Homerus?
Homerus. You got the Iliad and the Homerus. We actually just read the Iliad for book club.
Yeah.
And the Homerus is the epic tale of Odyssey, told by Homer, about how he came back from Troy, got lost in the sea, and I always liked heroes. Me.
Oh yeah.
Not this whole new superhero stuff, and okay, it's a bit too far, but I did like heroes. It's lost in this world, but I'm also, I at least try to be a gentleman and stuff like that still.
Yeah.
I find it, why not? Why have we lost that? Why have we lost pulling out a chair for a woman? Why have we lost opening a door? Not even just for a woman, in general. If everybody would think more like a hero, like I can help someone, then be nice.
So
that one I go back to, and for the rest I used to read a lot of fantasy, just me.
Yeah.
I didn't read that much I read a whole lot to learn, but that was school stuff.
Yeah.
That was not the stuff that kept me reading.
Gotcha. What was it? So it was heroes doing, essentially people doing kind acts.
People doing kind acts and being magnificent. If you read the Homerus, it's like these guys they're still guys, they're still human born. Some of them are not like half gods and stuff, but they're guys. They're built. They wash up on shore. They'll make their own hut. They'll find their own water. They'll get their own food.
There you go.
They are independent up to a stage that they can help others.
That has a pretty big link to you, right?
Yeah. And all of these guys, what they were heroes because they were strong enough to care for themselves and still go help other things. And they were just cool tales too, because they were the books I got to read when I was already very young. And they're full of sex and debauchery. And if you're 13, 14 and your parents are like, yeah, you can read that because it's a classic, it's culture, it's...
yeah.
Then you get into stuff like that. No, I wasn't actually that big of a reader most.
No, but now, yes.
I've read a lot, but what my girlfriend always says is she reads 4 times what I read, but I'll retain more than her.
Yeah, right.
I take a book, I read the book, I know the book.
Okay.
At least for a while.
Yeah, right. So you have a good, strong retention of the information that you take in. Yeah, right. So it does seem in some way that Homer's Iliad, is that what it's usually called?
Yeah, no. Well, it is Homerus, and you got the Odysseus and the Iliad.
Yeah.
But the Odysseus often gets called the Homerus.
Yeah.
It's basically 2 bundles of poems, but that constitute 2 big books, all put into rhyme, about the telltales of the Trojan War, and then the way that Odysseus got back home. One of the heroes in the war needs to return back home, and how his widow his at that point thought widow, because he was lost at sea, keeps all of the suitors at bay.
So it's actually like ancient tales and fantasy histories that have almost influenced more into your real life than...
Well, I always say, even those fantasy books, people think, he's reading fantasy, he's just getting lost in another world. Yeah, you might get lost in another world, but the ones that I read, there's kingdoms, and you don't just get, there's a kingdom, there's a castle. No, the intrinsic politics behind it, how the like with Game of Thrones is the same, how the Game of Thrones works, but the ones I read also still talked about another that was Republic and another that was, so you get all of these intrinsic that are always going to be based on how some countries do it. So that does give you an idea of some of the government forms that are out there and governance forms that are out there, whether it's socialism or capitalism or...
It's high five at 5 time. That's what that alarm's for. Sorry, that was a little distracting.
So yeah, on books, I cannot say I have this book that I read that influenced me so much, or not really.
Yeah.
I read here and there. We read for fun.
More for enjoyment.
We read to learn something. I'm not that guy. Like if I read fantasy, I read fantasy. That is to keep my mind off things. Might be interesting, might be deep going, but it still takes your mind off of stuff. Then the stuff we read for book club, we mostly try to read something at least substantial. As in, we did Catch-22 because that's from a substantial writer. Kellen Heller was... Now we're going to read The Three Musketeers. Dumas is it's a history. It's not history, but it is. This tale has been told throughout history in so many points that it holds merit. Like I like to also read for something that holds merit, something that'll teach me something that'll, or at least be high written. I'm not the one that's going to read this novel or that novel. I'm not a novel reader that much.
No. But I like what you said about how it helps you to like escape to another world, because I think a lot of people sort of put fantasy aside because it's not real. But you know, in a world where we're filled with so much like things we need to do, it can be very useful to just step aside and not think about what's happening at the moment.
And you can see the resemblances to your world. Like in all of those fantasy books, I always had a character that I was like, that is the cool character. That is the one I look up to. Like with those books, it was in the beginning he's a robber, but at the end he's the biggest duke of the Grand Duke of the Emperor, because he works his way up. He finds a way to get more skills. He's smart. Like it's kind of I read about the kind of guy I want to be.
There you go.
Like the hero in the books, it's not me, but it's the kind of guy I'd want to be.
So you take note of the morals of the heroes, and you're able to apply them to your own life.
Well, you try to keep yourself to a standard at least.
Yeah, of course.
Whether you make that standard or not is something else.
Yeah, true. And it depends not so much what you think, sometimes what other people think too. I guess the final question I have now, just to finish up, I really love a good morning routine, and I wonder if in all of this business and all of this time, perhaps even just in your life, are there some things that you like either really need to do daily or like think are super useful to do daily that you do as a routine?
I sport a lot, but every morning I do a morning routine of like half an hour of yoga and then training, and then it is every human needs routine. Every human is built on routine. We like to break the routine once in a while, but the best thing you can do for your life is build up a nice routine. I mean, I do my morning exercise, which some days I don't really want to do, but you keep doing it so that it becomes a custom, and then you get through that nicely. And at the end of it, you feel good.
Yeah.
And the rest of my morning routine is feeding my animals, checking my gardens, and then I start my own breakfast before I start opening the bar. And I'll say for me, if you say like things that if you come across in your life, that good lessons, good manners, my dad, when he was talking to me for the first time, whether I had smoked marijuana or not at 18, I told him yes, because it was a good day for that. We were sitting with a beer on the terrace. It was like, if there is ever a moment to talk about things like this, it is now.
Yeah.
And my dad just basically went, he's a cop. He said like, look, you can do whatever. You can do whatever in your life. And it's all out there. I'm not going to stop you. And with everything, with drugs, but with partying, with the way you live, I would just say like, as long as you're under my roof, as long as I'm feeding you, there's four pillars to life. Keep those in order and you can do whatever. Mess up on one of those, I take away whatever you are now messing up for. Those four pillars are health, So you can't be sick the whole time, because then there's clearly something wrong. You got to stop doing what you're doing or start changing your life. Have a social life. Be going out, having friends over, stuff like that. Be sporty. Nobody is going to get good or going to get happy or going to achieve something from sitting around doing nothing. Even if you don't see immediately what the job is and stuff, if you keep active, you keep moving, like I'm a runner, you run a lot, that ideas come to you while you do that. You get relaxed while you do that.
Do.
If you are going to be sitting around being like, oh, I can't find a job I want, it's never going to come. And then the last one, be working or be studying something. Either be learning a new trade or be learning a new, getting a new diploma for something, or be working. You cannot be not doing either of both. You don't find job for a while, that means that you'll have to use this time to get a new skill so that you can get a job that is out there. So that were the 4 that my dad gave, and I still live by them. Like if I get sick for a while, I'm gonna see what I cut out, Everybody has their vices, so whether it's sugar or stronger stuff, you see like, oh, I'm sick for 2 weeks in a row, that I don't feel good. Do a cleanse.
That's a really important way to finish it. And I think with those 4, that was a really lovely way to wrap it up with a little bit of life advice, essentially, from Dad. What's Dad called?
Roland.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, giving me your time. That is something that's very valuable.
You're welcome.
I appreciate all of the information that you shared, and I certainly hope that the people listening to this will appreciate it too. Overall, thank you. It's been really good for me, and I think it'll be good for everyone else too.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to part 3 of our interview with Dennis. If you enjoyed what you heard, please jump over and give Cuckoo Crazy a follow. Also remember that the best way you can support this podcast is by liking and following Between Views on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you know someone inspirational who deserves to be interviewed, please send us an email at betweenviewsbv@gmail.com or message us on Instagram. Thanks again and see you soon. Between Views.